So, in today's episode, we are talking all things supervisor and student relationship. I'm joined with Dr. Gilbert today as we unpack how to navigate the relationship between your supervisor as a student and you as a student with your supervisor. More often than not, relations between a student and supervisor are tense, and to a great extent, some even drop out because of that relationship. So we're going to unpack this topic and come up with some simple solutions that you can help you to navigate until you complete your master's, your PhD, or your honors. So, Dr. Gilbert, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moringa. You know that's quite a challenging issue, that's which is affecting most postgraduate students. And one of the critical issues, I think, it begins with how supervisors are allocated in our university setting systems. Most of the time, students receive an email or they are told this is going to be a supervisor. Whereas in some European context, the postgraduate, an aspiring postgraduate student reaches out to the supervisor whom they think will be able to supervise them, and the relationship begins from there. So you realize that in an experience whereby one has reached out to a supervisor, it's a bit different, in as much as there might be challenges here and there, but there is that connection and that relationship. Whereas in a situation whereby you are just allocated a supervisor, you have to start, from a different level altogether, whereby maybe the person doesn't know what you're interested in, and you don't know what they're interested in, and the interests of your study, when you begin to introduce them, they seem to be far from the interests of the allocated supervisor, which is a bit tricky and challenging as well. So I think it begins from how that supervisor-student relationship is developed or is allocated, right?
Okay, so one common challenge that graduate students face is that they are experiencing an unresponsive supervisor. You send your work, the supervisor takes 6 months, 8 months, or a year without getting a response. The only response that you get is received, noted, thank you. But beyond that, there's nothing else. So with Dr. Gilbert, we're going to navigate and see how best can you address that from the position of a supervisor and from the position of a student as well. Right, Dr. Gilbert, as a master's, PhD, and honors graduate, I'm sure you've experienced such here and there. Now the question to you is, how, as a student and as a supervisor, do we break this barrier of unresponsiveness? The student doesn't respond or the supervisor doesn't respond. How do we navigate?
Well, I think it all boils down from the beginning. How do you set the agenda of your progress? Most of the times, in my personal experience, I've had my own moments whereby I was running away from the supervisor because I was not up to date with my work. And then there were moments whereby I would send the work, but I do not receive feedback. But the biggest challenge in this case was the relationship we had. In a situation whereby there is no clear communication from the start, it becomes challenging now when you want to get things done and you don't know what's happening on the other side. Especially for the students. If you don't have a good working relationship with your supervisor and you don't know what's happening in their life at that particular moment, not necessarily meaning that you have to know their personal life, but just understanding their work life at that particular moment. Maybe the person might be attending a conference, or maybe they are marking examinations, considering that most supervisors are not just purely waiting there to supervise you. They have other duties that are more pressing than just you as an individual. So if you understand your supervisor's timetable, it's also very crucial and important. It helps you to know when to communicate, how to communicate, and how to engage. And obviously, if you have a good working relationship from the word go, it means you can call him, you can engage, you can text, to check up what's going on. I have been waiting for a while for your feedback and for your response, but it's not happening, you know, and I think it's derailing. And some supervisors might prefer a situation whereby once you have agreed that this is what you are working on, you do the work, you finish, you send to them, and then they will respond maybe slowly but at once, knowing that this is the work that has already been done. So I think it boils down to that aspect of a relationship. Make sure you have a good working relationship with your supervisor so that you know the seasons and the times in their timetable, so as to have an efficient process in your journey.
Okay, thank you. From what Dr. Gilbert has said, it is clear that 3 things are standing out. Number 1, you need to have goals in the timeline that you present to your supervisor, and you agree with your supervisor to meet those. And try by all means not to slack and not to meet your deadlines, because already that will give the supervisor a bad perception about you.
Exactly.
And if you do that, you will see that their response will begin to become slow. The second thing is that you need to treat your supervisor in a professional manner. The relationship is very important. The first meeting, you must set boundaries and parameters as to what you want to do. So that is very important. But thirdly, you need to keep the communication going with the supervisor. More often than not, from the experience of the supervisor, students disappear. And when they see graduation looming, or other colleagues graduating or friends graduating, that's where they want to run around to send work and check on the supervisor. That's a downfall.